Okay, we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bill and Ammon's Bogus Hangout. You have everybody introduce themselves. Doc? Doc, are you there? And Steve?
He's trapped.
Yourself?
Steve Grentz here from Steam Driven Media. How you guys doing?
Good, good. I think Doc's frozen on us. And
He's gone.
I think he's going to come back in or try to. And Terry's here. Terry, you want to introduce yourself?
Terry Van Horn. No websites, no care.
And I'm Bill Slosky, author at SEO by the Sea and director of SEO research at Go Fish Digital. There's a new quality evaluator guidelines, Terry. You pointed out to me earlier today.
Yes, sir. Those are my favorites, man. That's pretty well built. My techniques based on the Raiders guide, because it tells me or indicates what's important to them and how they're asking their Raiders to rate SERPs. So it's a pretty good clue into what they're looking for. The big thing here is they've stopped calling users. They now call them people. And Raiders are expected to look at the SERP. They're trying to remove bias of the person mainly. That would be cutting it down a lot, is get rid of some of the bias. And they are trying to add diversity. Steve and I have been for literally years saying their results are not diverse enough. They show me my point of view and nothing else. Not really caring for that. I like to see both sides of a story. To have to query differently to get that doesn't make a lot of sense. There should be a kind of diversity. I think they're realizing that that is an improvement. That people, that makes it easier to inject fake news and all kinds of other garbage as well.
I've seen Google mention diversity a number of ways about a number of different types of things. One of them was diversity of sites that show in search results. And they've done domain clustering and other approaches to have less results from the same site instead of search results. Another type of diversity that they've talked about is entity diversity.
Yep.
When you have an entity that maybe has the same name but describes something different, like Java is software, Java is a drink, Java is an island. You want to have results that show all three of those. You're talking about.
I would say that they don't do that very well. Because if I put in hockey team, it's going to show me all Toronto Maple Leafs stuff.
Right.
That's all they're going to show me.
They were just granted a patent on how to diversify entities more. So maybe.
Well, they're still not doing it very good then.
Well,
on that
area. So how are they going to diversify different points of view?
Yeah, I think that's important. They're trying to do that, but on some stuff, it doesn't sense. I don't care if I'm searching for hockey. I'm looking for Toronto anyhow. I don't want a diverse set then. Just different, I guess. But they do that kind of well, because I can go almost anywhere. And if I add St. Louis to that, it will give me St. Louis teams. But yeah, the other thing they are doing is now when they're checking local stuff, the person does it. The person who's checking it is local. So they are kind of reviewing their listings in some ways.
Yeah, there's another
If
one.
they're having raters.
Yeah, it's another one that said we're going to diversify local results. That are going to show more.
Yes.
If you search for a place, it won't just show you a things to do listing and show you 10 different Italian restaurants from the same place. It'll show you more variety than that.
Right.
But,
yeah, unless you ask for Italian.
Right. But diversity based on a different political viewpoint or ideological viewpoint, like Fox News versus CNN.
Yeah,
that
I think they're trying to do that too.
Challenging. That sounds like it would be a challenging thing to get.
It would be a lot more challenging, but we go back to like Yahoo for a while had their I forget what they call this, a brain something or other, where you actually had sliders on the search results, and you could push a slider for more information, more e-commerce, and adjust the results on the fly. And where you had a limited amount of manual control over the search results that you were seeing. And why Google doesn't take over and do something like that, even as an optional form of search, I would be far more interested in that than them trying to continually guess what I'm looking for.
And back in the days when MSN was called MSN instead of Bing, it had a set of sliders too.
Mm-hmm.
But in that case, though, a lot of those sliders would be actual applications that Google wants them to go. Like they're different types of search, image search, video. They actually want you to go to YouTube.
Well, those are tabs. Those
Right.
aren't sliders. The sliders were like if you wanted more informational results versus more transactional results. You could slide one way or the other.
Okay. That was Yahoo?
Yahoo tried that.
How long ago was that,
MSN
Steve?
tried that too.
Oh, long time.
Very long time
15
ago.
years probably.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that,
now I kind of remember. That didn't
seems
last
to me
very
like-
long either, did it?
That would be a tremendous machine burden, I would think.
Would it?
Because, well,
That'd
I mean,
be an extra filter for sure.
well, I mean, if I put a query in there and I get 1.5 million results, obviously my browser is not downloading those things, so it's not on my machine. It's got to be on them to adjust those sliders.
Sure. But I also don't think that. I think this whole 1.5 million results thing is kind of bullshit anyway. I don't care. Give me the top 100.
So
Because I'm not.
Top 10.
the slider on this
I
side,
haven't gone past top 10 in probably 18 months.
if you have a slider on this side that's Fox News and one on this side that's CNN, and sliding back and forth between those two.
Yeah, Steve, in regards to that, there was, I read something on one of the user surveys, 2% of people go by the first 10. Only 2% now go by that first page of results on Google. That makes that top 10. If you aren't in top 10, you aren't doing SEO. It's useless. Of course, we've been preaching that for a long time, haven't we, Steve?
Yeah, but it's what it is. I mean, what we want and what they're actually going to let us have are going to be two wildly different things anyway.
Yep.
Are there certain topics that you would purposefully go more than 2 pages past in search results?
I did just today, just trying to find information on this DIY laser stuff I'm doing. because the first page and a half what had nothing to do with how any of this stuff works. It was just more and more Chinese sellers. And it's like, no, I don't want, I have all the parts. I need to find out how to make the parts work. And finding it, getting to the information that's actually useful. I finally found the open source CNC software. I'm buried on page 3. It's like, and I started searching for laser CNC software. And by the time I actually found something useful, I was down on page 3 already.
So do we think that the average
something like that
might go past first page sometimes if they're motivated enough to?
Sometimes.
Yeah, the other side of that coin is I've got people like my dad who are incredibly smart people, engineer types. He comes up with new ideas to him. And instead of him trying to figure it all out, he tells me what the idea is and lets me do all the searches because he can't make Google do the things I can make it do.
Yeah.
He can't find, he'll spend 2 days looking for something, trying to figure out what he's got in his brain, and he'll tell me about it. And 5 minutes later on the phone, I'm still telling, before we've even hung up the phone call, I've already found what he was looking for, because the search has become useless for a lot of people. They can't find what they're looking for.
But also, if you think now 50% of searches are resulting in no click, right? That would mean
we don't know that because look at the source.
Say again, Bill?
Look at the source of that statistic.
Okay.
No idea.
Remember who said that?
Who said it?
Rand.
Ah,
Well, he's publishing it in SMX's MS.
well, I'm not going to.
Okay,
I'll believe
whatever.
it when I hear Neil Patel corroborate it.
Okay, if he's coming up with 50%, though, Bill, it's not a small number, right? He wouldn't blow it up that much. Like he's a liar, but excuse me, he's not a liar. That's the wrong word.
He seems to have a chip in his shoulder when it comes to Google.
Yeah.
He has an agenda, yes.
I think so. Yeah,
but you can't.
I'm just saying,
judging from what I see, right?
Like that. Look at the source.
Yeah. Okay.
He's
I just see all those answers there and know that right now that's where I'm getting a lot of my stuff from. I'm doing that. I'm not clicking the sites.
Okay, so
today I wanted a recipe for tzatziki. Right? Sauce, refresh myself. It was right in the results. Why would I go to a site?
Even Rand said there is still value in appearing in those search results, even though nobody clicks. People start recognizing your brand. And I agree with that. Mm-hmm. I mean, people...
I agree, because it's also, in the past, those kind of rich snippets have actually resulted in increased traffic. So I don't think it really always ends up in less traffic. I think just a lot less people, are clicking. They're not having to do, they can get what they want right there. I know lots of times it's right there in the results, in either the questions or a rich snippet. So why would I go to the site?
When they came out with the FAQ schema markup and people started using it, people started reporting that they were getting less traffic to the websites because they were answering the questions there and people could see the answers in the search results. Some people then decided that if they included links in their answers, people were clicking through those links to the web pages. So
Does
they were actually
Google
getting-
include the links?
Google included the links to those. Yeah.
Interesting. Yep. That
So
works good.
sometimes if you want a featured snippet, you set it up so that you've got more of an answer than will fit on what Google's going to display. People might click through.
Right.
Yeah,
I've
I
also
put the-
just
go ahead.
well, I was going to say they on any featured snippet, there's not a link to the page, but there's the page references there. It's like a citation. You can copy and paste it. Lots of people, that's an easy task, but
Yeah, I've used
so
the
I
FAQ
think that's how
schema.
it results in more traffic.
I've used the FAQ schema, but I've never tried putting a link into the answer. That's an interesting idea. I might have to see how that works out.
I think it's worth trying.
Yeah, you'd probably want to link the word that is important in that query too.
Well, sure.
But just from looking, and I've been watching this for a long time, it wouldn't surprise me. I know the source is not the best one, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's approaching that number. It just makes sense when you see how many answers and other no-click events are now on a SERP. It's
Well, I
unbelievable.
personally, I have some doubts that the majority of no-click searches can be laid at the feet of an answer in the SERP, because I just don't see that many. Now, maybe that's a function of the searches that I'm doing, but I don't see that a great amount of answers. What I have seen, though, particularly since Google has gotten a little bit more free-handed with where they pick up, rather than taking your meta description, they're picking something off the page that they think better suits the query. Just this morning, I was looking for some information, and I found the answer I needed in the description a lot of times. Several times this week that I've been looking for a specific piece of information, and I found it in the description in the SERP without ever having to click through. And I wonder, how many, since Google has expanded that description relevance, I wonder how many other searches are experiencing the same.
Well, that's why I question anybody whose strategy is to spend a lot of time on those snippets before the page ranks and is on the first page, because they don't do anything else for you.
If your
Right.
business model is based on providing factual information on your search pages, on your web pages, maybe you need a different business model.
Yeah.
Would that make it fake news then? Because if your goal is to produce facts, and Google's not going to letting you have traffic just doing facts, then you need to start making shit up.
No, you don't. If you're covering a news story and you put a straightforward story on your pages without interviewing a bunch of people, without getting a bunch of different perspectives, without getting a bunch of facts on the page for that story, you're not quite reporting in depth as much as maybe you should be.
Well, I would agree with that, Bill, as far as the in-depth portion especially. But, I mean, face it, clickbait titles have been around for a long time, long before the internet, and they haven't gone away any. And they work. That's why they haven't gone away, because they still work.
Google published something 2 months ago about news stories, saying they were focusing on more originality in reporting those news stories. They were trying to get more in-depth reporting and ranking pages higher for including more in-depth reporting. And that's part of the focus of what they're trying to do. They were saying the quality rater guidelines were also focusing upon that. We're also stressing they wanted to see more detailed content. So if your page is showing up as the featured snippet and you're providing an answer to a question, but you're not providing something that looks like it might answer a bunch of questions, maybe you're not going to get clicked through.
Or real relevant to that snippet. I don't think you'd get that rich snippet unless it was pretty relevant to the page and the query.
One would hope. Yeah.
That's been my experience. That's why it often results in more traffic to that page.
Well, as much as the next guy, I could enjoy reading some humorous Google bashing, but my tendency is I'm more inclined to believe that their capabilities and motivations are going to be more reliable than human nature. I mean, face it, the National Enquirer still sells 100,000 copies every issue, within the first hour because people are stupid. And, if the search engines don't get smarter, then we're doomed.
Yep.
Well, I think elections are a joke now because of search engines and social media. I think they can easily be manipulated.
What are a joke, Terry?
Elections.
Well, one could
Hence
make
you
a
end up
reasonable.
with fools running countries.
Well, it certainly hadn't helped. I'll grant that. But although fools running countries didn't just suddenly come about back in the 1990s.
Yeah,
we've been doing it to a level of perfection for decades, buddy.
Right. It's been finely crafted over many years.
This is we can't lay all that on the internet.
But okay. Just, I guess I've read too much information about how social media affected a few elections and the Brexit. And yeah.
Well, I think, certainly it did.
They aren't exactly blocking people from.
It has certainly affected the political landscape, but I think it's also affected us, on a societal and social basis tremendously, more than a lot of people are really admitting, I think.
Well, if you watch the show that I showed you and you look at and read a few things about what they did, they basically knew who was voting, whether they had already decided who they were going to vote for, and then they could target information at those people specifically. Mm-hmm. And the biggest culprit was Facebook. They were running millions of dollars of ads on Facebook.
Yep.
Which is why it was, they're not going to stop it. They're going to allow it to happen.
I don't think that Facebook is making any kind of a concerted effort to push one agenda or the other. I think that they have been grossly negligent in trying to prevent that kind of crap. Yeah, I understand them and Google saying, we can't be fact checkers. The volume of fact checking would just be unrealistic. But by the same token, when it's patently obvious, when somebody is putting out an ad that some senator is being investigated for child abuse charges, and you come to find out it just happens to be some guy not even in the same name, living in a different state, 30 years younger, that's who they wrote about. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to question when something really off the wall. The kind of stuff that we see every day on Facebook is valid. or at least needs a second look.
Yep,
And
but
I don't see them making any effort to
Yep.
that at all. And I don't see the bent being toward the right or toward the left. I see it just being negligent across the board. Unfortunately,
I
think both parties are. I think one party is doing it more than the other. Okay, the negative ads, but
it's not just the negative ads. If they don't know where to target them, they're no good. They don't work, right? If you can't target them, they don't work. Not as well, anyhow. It's the targeting. Basically, those companies raped Facebook. Took all the data. They knew who you were following, etc., which you shouldn't be able to find out. But
it shouldn't be.
By raping the system. And that's a good way to put it, because they basically were almost, Facebook told them to stop. They said they had, but they continued to use the data.
Yeah.
That was proven.
No, Facebook admitted it.
Right, because they had people right in the room with them telling them how to do it. So what caused it? Greed. Nothing else. Greed. Right? Facebook can stop that. They won't, though, because it's millions of dollars. It's disgraceful. It's disgusting. It's Facebook. That's just my opinion.
So Twitter did ban political advertisements. Is it something that could happen to Facebook?
Not likely, but
what?
Political advertisements.
Yeah,
Jack
candidates
Clark
can't.
said no more ads on politics.
Yep. That was what, about 3-4 weeks
Twitter
ago,
ads
wasn't it?
anyhow. Be a few $100,000 probably. But they were literally spending millions of dollars on Facebook. That's why it won't stop.
Right. So would other people would still advertise on Facebook if there weren't politicians advertising on Facebook?
Right.
Right. So get rid of the political ads.
Yeah. But it's also the way after they do that they can target boosts and all kinds of other stuff, right? And that's what makes it really effective, is you can target.
Well, the targeting ability on Facebook, I think, is still superior to just about any other platform out there. They've got some killer demographics.
They weren't using their stuff. They were literally indexing the website and then pulling the data themselves.
Oh, yeah, but the data, Facebook has the data.
Right.
So
You just have to know how to get it.
When Analytica got it, they had a wealth of data there to draw on.
Right.
Probably as deep or deeper than what the NSA has on us,
Well, if the people from Facebook are sitting right there with them, you can bet they're getting some kind of advantage. But that's, I'd love to see it happen here in Canada. I mean, anything's better than what we got.
You'd love to see
the government people use stuff like that to beat the governments here. We put the biggest fool in we can find, and
you don't
put
like
them at
politicians,
the top.
huh?
No, I have no use for politics or government in general.
I think
they just screw everything up.
So what about you where you're at, Doc?
Say again, Bill?
What about you where you're at?
In terms of politics?
Politics, yeah.
Well, where I'm at, they wrote the book on corruption down here. Okay, the guys in Washington just paid somebody to translate it and studied it. But down here, corruption is such an integral part of politics down here. It's accepted and expected. And anybody that goes into even local politics, let's say for what would be like a city manager job or something, or a DA, if you're not on the take, then all your colleagues are going to they're going to assume that you're working for the feds, and they're going to probably either poison your career to get you pushed out, or you'll end up in 3 different dumpsters because you're a risk. If you're not crooked, you're a risk because you're one of 100 or 500, and that's how deep it is down here, and it goes all the way up. But right now we have a new president down here who appears to be above that.
Yeah.
He has his own private security force in addition to the state security force, and I'm afraid it's just a matter of time before somebody gets him, because the 2 major he's a third party, the 2 major political parties would both cheerfully put a bullet between his eyes, I'm sure. They certainly try to put a bullet between his political eyes on a daily basis. The problem is that the graft is so entrenched that people don't even bother to investigate it. It's more like they just give a verbal pat on the back. The guy, boy, he really showed some guts on that one. Rip off $20 million from a federally funded construction project. What balls on that guy? So what else has happened? Who's playing the Knicks? They just, it's accepted. And almost to the point of, at least among those elite that are in that game, almost respected.
Okay, so Terry, you had some other stories for today.
Yeah, I was just looking at them actually. Google has added package tracking to the SERP, so they're expanding the program. Just another 0-click thing. People won't have to go to the
It's something
website.
you've already had for a while.
Pardon me?
It's something you've already had for a while.
Yeah, they're just expanding the number of carriers, and I think they've brought down the guide. Allowed more people to come in by not being so strict on the guidelines. But again, to me, that just saves those companies bandwidth of people coming to their website to check their packages at Christmas. I imagine UPS and some of the big ones have a lot of that kind of traffic around the 24th, or the 23rd, 22nd.
So if Google's getting information from you about where you're getting things shipped from, does that become part of your search history?
Yep, they're also using APIs from the companies. That was one of the things that I noted there, was they're using APIs, JSON and XML.
So I think Google's also expanded the number of buy now buttons in product offerings.
Yep. Also in your GMB, there's a buy now button there as well, and offers.
Yeah.
Which they've not been too bad for the ones I put up there. They get not a lot of views, but some. I haven't seen any sales yet.
I've seen some pretty good prices for things like groceries with delivery through an Instacart.
They're doing more and more of that in Canada now. Most of the grocery stores, you can phone your order in or do it online and have it delivered to your house.
Is that a good idea, like during a snowstorm?
It's a good idea for me. If I go and do the groceries, that's it for the day. I'm not doing anything else. Wears me out.
So if they bring the groceries to your house and let you put them away in
Yeah.
the refrigerator, it's not quite the investment in time and effort.
Yeah. I haven't used it yet. I have to check the prices first.
Yeah.
So I'll go and check my price list online. Then I'll go into the store and compare them and see what the price is. Price difference. I'm sure you're paying more for that service.
Well, you're paying like a $5.99 delivery fee from an Instacart.
Yeah, don't think these stores are charging. That's just how they're trying to increase business by giving better service. Back in the day, all grocery stores delivered right to your house.
Yeah, back in the day.
Most
That's been a while though.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah, that was a lot when we were young boys, right?
Yeah, when the milk bottles were glass and they had little cardboard tape stoppers. Yep.
That was my first job, was working on a milk truck with the guy on his busy days,
Everybody had
running milk up to the house.
Yeah. Get your milk and your bread delivered.
Yeah, well, back then we were doing a lot there. Almost anything in the dairy aisle you could get.
Butter, eggs, milk.
Not eggs, but butter and cheese, because they owned a butter and cheese. They owned at least one cheese factory. The dairy that the guy was working out. It was a small city dairy. In fact, that was the name, City Dairy.
So one of the other stories you told us was about lyrics and Google getting sued by a company providing lyrics.
Yeah, genius. This is not the first time, right, Steve? I think back when we were doing regulators, we talked about this. They're nailing them by putting different quotes around stuff. It's kind of like Morse code, so they could figure out who was stealing.
Genius
And Google hasn't figured out yet how they ended up with the results in the search.
Genius did some stuff with apostrophes. They added apostrophes to lyrics. That if, according to a certain code, they follow, spell out different things, like this content is stolen.
Or got you red-handed, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Pretty
Google has been saying they haven't been copying the lyrics from the Genius website. They've been relying upon their lyrics providers. They're paying money for lyrics.
Right.
And you got to wonder, where are they getting them from? You know,
And Genius is not the copyright holder.
Yeah.
So they don't have a copyright infringement case. Because they don't own the copyright.
Yeah.
And Google has a right to use those lyrics, but not necessarily the lyrics from Genius, from the Genius website.
Right.
Here's a result from search.
It's a Genius result. Okay, so
Well, they were Google was kind of saying it had something to do with Lyric Find, and Lyric Find, well, how they were getting them, they weren't sure. Or they weren't saying.
and Lyric Find was saying that they weren't necessarily getting those from Genius either.
Yeah, but if they had those apostrophes,
I mean, if they ask the artists who own the copyright for lyrics, and the artist went to Genius and copied them,
well,
and said, fine.
if I have what's on my website copyrighted, right?
Yeah, which you do because you're the one who wrote it, and
Right.
you're automatically presumed to have copyright.
So,
But what if there's a prior copyright already? Like for
yeah,
instance,
that's
with the
what I'm
lyrics?
saying is if they're taking them off their website, they may not, and they're not charged. And what, as I understood it, they weren't saying they were stealing copyrighted material. They were saying basically you're interfering with our business, which they do have a case on that basis.
Yeah,
by
but I don't
taking
know that it's
this-
a winnable case.
Well, that you could say that about any case, even if I stood right in front of people and
They're
shot you.
providing lyrics free to the public. So what are their damages?
They sell if they're getting paid per page load, right? But for ads, that's lost revenue if the people aren't coming to the website and they're getting the lyrics off of Google. So they do have a case there.
Do they show ads? I'm not aware of Genius's business model.
They do. Well, that's what they were saying. It was interfering with their business and ability to make money. Which when I read it, I thought, yeah, that's reasonable, I think. They're not trying to get them on the copyright. They're not saying, right?
Right.
You also got to remember that there's some sort of, how do you call it? They have some interest in that since they took the copyrighted stuff and put it on their site, right? If they're paying, aren't they paying somebody for that copyrighted material out of that?
They're paying people to transcribe lyrics and write them out on their site.
Okay.
That's
So
not
that-
copyright infringement.
One could almost make a claim of value-added effort on their part.
They probably
That's
have
what
a-
I'm saying. It takes an effort
They
to
probably
add
have
that
a-
stuff to their
They
website.
probably have a license to do that.
That's what I'm thinking. But who knows?
So you've got one licensee of copyright versus another licensee of copyright.
And Google infringing on the other's ability to get traffic to their website.
Licensee of copyright.
Wouldn't
Right.
you assume though, Bill, that the original copyright holder, the artist, would have precedence?
Genius isn't the copyright holder, though.
No, I say the artist, the musician that wrote the song. I would think that whoever held the original copyright
They're
should
not-
hold precedence
they're not-
over the websites that
We're
publish.
not in a lawsuit.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if Neil Diamond wrote the song and I put it on my website, put his lyrics on my website, and Terry comes along and steals it from my website, what right do I have as a copyright holder of something that I had no right to copyright because it was already copyrighted?
Often, copyright holders don't provide lyrics to anybody.
Okay.
They provide music.
He releases an album. You listen to it. You could read the lyrics if it was printed on the back of the album cover.
But you can't use them.
Publishing is separate, Bill. Artists can own. Usually the record company ends up with the publishing rights unless the person who wrote it
Right, but
takes them.
the artist is the one who owns the copyright.
Right. And there's nothing to stop Genius from going to those artists and saying, here's a couple of $100. We're going to put your lyrics here and license use. And then if someone's stealing from them, then they have a right, correct? Because they're licensed to
the artists
provide
are
that.
also- and the artists are also licensing Lyrics Find, and they're licensing Google to show lyrics. So everybody's making money off or paying the artists to use the copyrighted material.
Yeah, I'm thinking though that Genius is saying they should be paying them instead of Lyric fine because their stuff's ending up in the SERP.
Genius is saying that they're the ones being infringed upon or being harmed because it's their copies of the lyrics that they're paying to transcribe,
Right.
publishing on their website,
Right.
that's being used by Google ultimately in the end, even though Google isn't necessarily the one who's copying the lyrics from the Genius website.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting case.
I think they'll win, personally.
Yeah.
Mainly because they can prove that the stuff come from their website.
They can't necessarily prove that somebody took that stuff with the intent of harming them. Google, if Google told by Lyrics Find that here are the lyrics, published them, without being told they're from Genius, Google doesn't know and they think they're doing something right. So there's no criminal intent. There's no intent for doing.
Yeah, there has to be intent. Yeah.
So
There has to be substantial damage and intent, right, Bill?
Yeah. If you're doing something criminal, if you're doing something civil, you still need the intent.
It'll be interesting to see how it shakes down in the court.
So whoever's responsible for Google getting those lyrics may be the party that's ultimately found guilty. I'm not sure it's going to be Google. Even though Google may have been caught red-handed with the lyrics that have been transcribed. It should be an interesting case, though.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think it's going to definitely set a precedent. At least once it gets through the appeals process. Whoever wins.
They're charging. They're looking for $400 million in damages.
Well, my understanding, and I'll let our resident attorney correct me if I'm out in left field, but I would think that when you start looking for, there's very few civil cases that I'm aware of where any significant amount of punitive damages is allowed in a civil damages case. Isn't that right, Bill? It almost have to be substantiated losses that they're claiming, not and perhaps legal expenses, but not punitive.
Most civil cases get settled on the courthouse steps before people enter court
Settlements, yeah.
So punitive damages are multipliers intended to change behavior. You award McDonald's $50 million, or somebody suing McDonald's $50 million for having coffee at 90 degrees, even though there's no reason for it to be that high.
Right. Force them to put cup things to hold so it doesn't burn your hand.
And little warnings on the cups saying, warning, this stuff's hot.
Yeah, warning, our hot coffee, it really is.
It is hot.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what it takes to award punitive damages. You need to have an actual court verdict with the decision made that the company should be punished in some way so that it changes their behavior.
Well, also, wouldn't that cover the work that they had to do to figure out how their lyrics were being misused?
Google had no idea that there were upside down or reverse apostrophes in that content that it could say, oh, you took this from somebody.
Right.
So they may have caught them red-handed by doing something very creative and clever, but there was nothing in there to let them know that the lyrics that they got that they had legal right to show were taken
Right.
from somebody who they shouldn't have been taken from.
Right.
If they were provided those lyrics from a lyrics find or from somebody else selling lyrics.
Yeah, I think whoever is a culprit, like that Google is getting them the data from, right? They're the ones who are ultimately probably going to pay the fine.
Yeah, if they can,
And if they're not able to, I'm thinking then they get something from Google.
and Google probably knows who they paid for those lyrics.
Well, sure.
Oh, they know where it came from for sure.
So it's going to come down to Google admitting who they got the lyrics from,
Right.
and that person admitting who
I think they pretty well said, yeah, we get all our lyrics from Lyric Find.
I'm not sure they admitted that completely.
Let me check. I
Or,
believe
or
so.
maybe Lyrics Find said we used to get lyrics from Genius, but we stopped doing that.
Yeah, that rings a bell in my memory.
Yeah, but I know that Genius has been in the news years back for pretty much the same thing.
If Lyrics Find hired a bunch of people to transcribe lyrics, and those people, instead of transcribing the lyrics, were going to Genius and copying Genius's lyrics and telling Lyrics Find, yeah, we transcribed these. Here you go.
Which is a real possibility.
And that's just the scenario I expect.
I can tell you I know a place right now that it would be cheaper to send the video of that song to these people and get them to do it rather than trying to transcribe Genius. But then remember, they don't have to transcribe Genius's stuff. I think they were actually indexing it or crawling it and getting the information that way.
Well, these days it could have been any one of their supposed transcribers. They'd have that, you and I could find software at the drop of a hat to go scrape stuff off a site. It's readily available to anybody who's so
I have a
inclined.
script that does that.
Yeah, it's
I
readily
make two
available.
adjustments and
So it could,
scrape
some
anything.
copywriter could do that shit very easily, and scrape something off a site that might not even appear, for instance, in the index, because scrapers they don't honor robots text and htaccess. They'll go wherever the hell they want to.
Right.
So, it's a very real possibility that Lyric Find was totally straightforward, thought they were doing the right thing, paying somebody to transcribe something, and they were just getting a copy-paste ripoff. Okay? Entirely possible.
Yeah, but they're still responsible for that, regardless of them being duped.
You're responsible for it, but
Well, Lyrics Find does
the
have
intent is questionable. Okay?
they do have a license to sell those lyrics.
Yeah.
And Google has a license to display the lyrics. So this is why it gets tricky to have a lawsuit. People have to start admitting where they got lyrics from. And
well, to me,
and
for
how
a
much due
company to
diligence
spend,
was used to verify too? I think that's going to end up being a question in the court.
yeah,
How
for me,
conscientious were they?
it's got to be a big problem for them and a problem for their business that they spent the amount of time and resources it would take to code all that right in those songs. Yeah, it'd be a while. Cost them a lot of money. So I think it's not just Lyric Find. There's probably multiple people doing it.
Could have done programmatically.
I would think, yeah.
Yeah, you could, I suppose, yeah. But even that, well, that still takes time, and you probably don't want to just let that pass. You got to review it after.
So you check every 200 song. You do quality control, right?
Well, for legal purposes, you probably want to check everyone because you don't want to have any mistakes in there, right? If you're claiming something and then what you claimed is not true, they're going to think it's all suspect.
Could you do a programmatic quality control?
Probably. Again, that still takes time and money. Programs don't write themselves, unfortunately.
Right, but you're in business. You have a cost of business. That's nothing unusual.
Well, they're either dreamers asking for 400 million or actually can prove that they were that they lost that much or something near to it.
That sure seems like an awful lot of losses.
That could be their business model. Put them up and then sue everybody. That seems to be a common model for.
I can see a judge being satisfied with awarding Genius a verdict in that case, and then much less of an amount, a dollar amount.
Right.
Yeah, like 100,000 instead of 400 million.
But again, like you said, what's 100,000 to Google or Lyric find if
Yeah.
That's not really gonna stop. That's not punitive. That's not gonna really hurt them. I mean, Sergi probably digs around in the couch for 100 grand.
Well, think about how difficult it would be for Google to realize that the lyrics they've been getting have been transcribed from Genius.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Genius is really clever in how they hid those codes. They were maybe too clever for their own good.
Yeah, I wonder if they did this in Europe too instead of US. If I was doing something like this, I'd do it in Europe if I could. They tend to like to punish Google that way. You could get 400 million from them that way. Like I say, it's all just indirect taxation, all this stuff in the EU. I'm convinced of it.
Google did have a legal right to publish those lyrics, though. And
because they license them.
They got them from people whom they thought also had legal rights to provide those lyrics.
Right.
Because those people were licensing them too.
Do you think that covers them legally? Is ignorance a defense? My lawyers have always told me no.
It's not ignorance. No, it's lack of motive.
Oh, okay. So
lack of intent
and due diligence.
They were careful in that they paid for lyrics. They were careful in that they chose a source of lyrics that had a right to provide them lyrics.
Right.
And so they have no intent to cause Genius harm.
Right. Or anybody harm. Right.
And lack of intent shoots down a lawsuit.
But then they're Google and
it shoots down a lawsuit verdict against Google.
Right. But that doesn't mean that it won't happen just because they're a big company and they like to,
Well, somebody is at fault.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Lyric Find as not
necessarily going through. Okay, so the other option is doing what Genius did, which is having people sit, listen to the songs, and write out the words.
It could be just a ploy for Genius to get.
Lyrics Find could be hiring people to do that, and those people may be taking shortcuts.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if I'm like, one way that they could turn it all around, since this is, I believe, the second time this has happened, is for Google to just go from lyric find to Genius, and then they don't have that problem.
This isn't necessarily the second time it's happened quite the same fact pattern. And I think maybe the fact pattern is different enough so it makes a difference.
And I don't think that any kind of a business relationship between Google and Genius is real likely.
No, not since they've, I believe, tried to sue him twice.
I mean, I was surprised when I first heard that Google was licensing lyrics that they were going to display.
A lot of people, because of karaoke, are looking for lyrics.
Yeah.
My brother, they're all over YouTube. Like all you do is add the word karaoke to any song and it'll give you the video with the lyrics usually.
Well, fair use is normally cover things like catch copies of web pages that Google shows in search results, or featured snippets, the small amount of text that they show at the top of the search result. That's covered by fair use.
I can't recall ever seeing a featured snippet from YouTube, other than a video. However, when I did search for lyrics, the YouTube videos were coming up.
Well, yeah, because there are an awful lot of YouTube videos that actually have, as subtitles, have the lyrics. Sometimes that's the primary purpose of it. I mean, it's not, you're not seeing anything but the lyrics with the music backdrop. So
Yeah,
those show up in the SERPs a lot. I've seen them a lot because I'll look for lyrics now and then.
I'm always doing it because I remember lyrics from songs, but can't remember the titles.
Exactly.
So
Or
I go to Google,
and even less
put in
the
the
artist.
lyrics, and get the title
what
to
I
the
was working
song.
towards making was that when you're copying a whole song, the lyrics for a whole song, that probably doesn't come under fair use.
No,
Right.
agreed.
Which is why it wouldn't be covered by a fair use exception to copyright.
Right. That's why you have to license the full lyrics.
It's required, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I see a song like "White Christmas" lyrics, and they're attributed to Justin Timberlake, I wonder about that.
I think those come from a movie, didn't it? That song came from a movie.
Actually, that song existed before the movie that made it.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah.
Bing Crosby always sung it though, right?
Yeah, he made it famous, but the song existed. He actually covered it. Okay.
Was that a Rodgers and Hammerstein?
I'm not certain, Bill, but it strikes me that it was before them.
Okay.
White
Oh,
Christmas.
it's really old then.
I think it was around before them, but I'm not absolutely certain of that. I think that's the song I think of.
The Frank Capra movie.
Call from Coast Service.
Yeah, that song has been around longer than you and me put together, I think, Terry.
Yep. I watched a thing on Frank Sinatra yesterday, 3 hours long.
Oh, yeah?
Beautiful. Love it. You know, he was
Interesting
the
character.
first pop star.
He's an interesting character, yeah.
Yes.
He was the first pop star?
Yep. Pops is short for popular music.
Yeah.
And he was like a rock star for Bobby Soxers.
Oh, yeah, God, they fainted by the droves when he was.
Yeah.
But we did have other genres of music then that played in the radio and so on, like country music
Yeah.
and rhythm and blues.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But the music they referred to as pop music, popular music.
Well, you know, back,
That was ranked now.
I think pop music came about right about the time that people finally got tired enough of the big band sound that they were looking
Yep.
for something different, and they were looking because you can't. Big band was for ballroom dancing. That was not the kind of thing that interested the teeny boppers. Okay, and you know the beatniks had their thing, and then the next generation wanted to have their thing, and that's kind of when pop came out. And you had the Bobby Darrens and the Frank Sinatras, and you know that came out with a new sound and made it very popular because finally the young generation had something that was for them.
Yeah, Sinatra played with Jimmy Dorsey. He
Oh,
sang
yeah.
for him. Yeah.
Yep.
Before he became real on his own, a star.
So he played was it trombone? Trumpet.
Dorsey, I think the
No,
trumpet.
Right.
Sinatra.
I think he played a trumpet.
He played the trumpet and then he tried to sing like the trumpet sounded.
Mm.
He didn't play a terribly bad piano either. I mean, he wasn't in any, concert pianist, but he could accompany himself quite adequately on a piano.
Yeah.
Not sure how we got onto this from SEO, but hey, I don't mind.
I was making small talk with you while Bill was on the phone.
Yeah, I don't mind walking down memory lane now and then.
We're at the top of the hour. So have to call it a day, I think. Thank you both.
Yeah.
Hey.
Later.
And we'll see what happens with that lyrics lawsuit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to check and see what the first one was about because I remember talking about it on the regulators with Dave and Steve.
Yeah, I want to see how different that is from this one.
Yeah.
Because Genius seems really happy that they caught Google red-handed. I mean, the code hidden in the lyrics is caught red-handed, isn't it? Something like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm betting it doesn't hurt the press that they're getting either. A lot of publicity out of it.
There's always that, yeah.
It's that it's when you hide something that well, you aren't giving a Google notice that what they're doing is wrong when what they're doing is right. When they have a legitimate right to lyrics from a company that's legitimately can provide lyrics.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting case for sure. I have a feeling, though, it's going to set a precedent that's going to come back and haunt some people for a long time.
Are you shutting her down, Bill?
Yeah. And do it right now. Thank you all.
Hey, later.